Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Blockbuster Guys. Today we're talking about a teen stoner comedy horror romance movie from 1999. This is one that we both really enjoyed when it came out and also just throughout the years, and that's Idle Hands. Why don't we get into a little bit about the plot here and kind of describe why you were so interested in this movie?
Okay, well basically you've got a sort of standard setup. It follows a guy called Anton, who is your typical stoner, slacker, late 90s kind of dude bro stereotype. And it's a situation where he wakes up one morning, sort of drifts around a bit, and then discovers that his parents have been violently murdered by a serial killer. He hooks up with his sort of two best friends. I think it's Mick and Pnub.
Yeah, and, weird name.
Yeah. Great name. And it sort of comes to the realization that the serial killer is in fact himself. He has found himself in possession of a possessed demonic hand that goes around killing people whether he wants to or not. So he also ends up killing his two best friends, who then become sort of like Rosencrantz and Guildenstern sort of comedy characters in the background that help to sort of, you know, push the plot along. And all the while he's pining over the proverbial girl next door, which is Molly, I believe.
Yeah.
And you've then got two other characters come into it, which is Randy and Debbie. Randy is one of the neighbours. Debbie is sort of a paranormal, almost like Buffy the Vampire Slayer
Demon
style
hunter
prototype.
kind of thing going on.
Exactly, yeah. She's sort of hunting down this demonic hand. And you've basically got it sort of ploughing through to the third act of, will they be able to prevent this hand that has a complete mind of its own, as is revealed towards the end when it's severed from Anton's body, and everybody sort of rushes to a conclusion at a high school dance for whether or not they can prevent the hand from achieving its goals, put it that way.
It's definitely got some Evil Dead element, Evil Dead 2 kind of vibes to it in that point, for sure.
It has, yeah.
Which we love that kind of homage in any kind of movie.
Yeah.
It kind of, touches upon the past a bit. Love that kind of stuff. It's
the thing with, you know, as the intro stated, you know, it's cross-genre, so you have got the horror movie elements to it. You know, the violence is very violent. There's a lot of sort of blood and gore and everything else, but equally, yeah, the comedy veers from, there are some cracking lines in it, there's some great sight gags, but there also is a lot of physical comedy, much like Evil Dead, centered around the idea of a hand having a mind of its own.
So one of the things that really works well in this movie is the cast. It's really, really well thought out, I thought, as far as who they hired for each of these roles. They've all played the roles very well. So, starting with the main character, Anton, you got Devon Sawa. At that point in time, very big from the Final Destination movies. So he had a bit of a horror background going into this one. So you kind of knew him from horror films. When you recognize his face, it's like, okay, I recognize that guy from Final Destination. Another teen horror movie, specifically on that one. But one thing I really liked about him was his the physical side of things with his character, because he played the fact that his hand was possessed very well, which is a weird thing to say, but he moved a lot, he gesticulated a lot with the hand, he acted like the hand was being controlled, and he had to do a lot of this and a lot of moving. The physical side of things really played out very well in this character for him, and I thought that really lends believability to it.
Yeah, at some points it's almost gymnastic levels of acting. I mean, it's certainly it's that thing where it's on a par with Bruce Campbell in Evil Dead 2.
Yeah.
But you know, there's a lot of physicality, and it's a thing of making something preposterous come across as believable.
Yeah.
Which I think he managed to do quite well.
Groovy.
And then the best friends in this one, Seth Green and Eldon Henson. Eldon Henson was the one who played Nub, whatever they...
Yeah.
I can never say his name right. Nub. Is it a silent P? I don't know. Now, Seth Green, obviously, you're going to recognize from a lot of stuff. Austin Powers, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Somebody's Stepmother Was an Alien. Lots of stuff you're going to recognize him from. Eldon Henson, for me, was the Mighty Ducks. He was one of the Mighty Ducks, and
for me was Foggy Nelson.
Yeah, I was gonna say the Daredevil from the TV show version of Daredevil that's just been released and renewed and canceled and renewed and all that kind of stuff. Very good version of Daredevil, but Ben Affleck was the bomb at Phantoms, but. Jessica Alba is in this as Molly, the romantic interest, the girl next door. Plays that girl next door role very well in this movie. Early role for her. Obviously, she became very big. Obviously Jessica Alba for me, lots of different movies that she was in, and obviously was it Dark Angel, the TV show that she was in?
Yes.
Yeah, that was a good show back in the day as well. So I don't think people talk about that one enough. That's for sure.
Well, I mean, I thought, all the performances across the board were very good. There's not a weak performance in it. And also, you have the neighbour, Randy, who's Jack Noseworthy, who sort of recognised from being the neighbour in the Brady Bunch movie. So again...
Under-recognized movie as well, but we'll come back to that later.
It's a very good film. But it's it's that, so he has the sort of comedy chops and always gives off a slightly sort of arseholey vibe, I think is the term. And was it Vivica A. Fox as Debbie, the demon hunter, and they sort of team up, and that's kind of what I like about it, because you have they're sort of like almost like the B plot that runs through the movie.
You looking for a ball? Because I could help you find one that's the right size for you.
What the hell? Try and keep up?
And I think that's one of the strengths of the movie in how it sort of combines the genres. Because you have, obviously, Devon Sawyer, Seth Green and Eldon Henson are sort of the main comedy drive through the film. Then you've got Devon Sawyer and Jessica Alba. They're sort of the romance side of the film. And then Jack Noseworthy and Vivica A. Fox are sort of the bleed plot that runs through it, which is more of a sort of action, comedy, Buffy the Vampire Slayer type vibe to it.
Yeah, definitely,
I mean, you've also got other just sort of like minor appearances, like you've got, is it Fred Willard?
Fred Willard is the dad. Yeah.
And you've got,
Lincoln,
the Offspring in there.
Yeah, the Offspring, the band, yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're starred full and they're playing a high school dance, so they're stars.
24 hours ago, I want to be sedated.
I also thought it was very cool that Christopher Hart plays the hand. And now, who's Christopher Hart, right? We don't know that. He played Thing in The Addams Family, so he's got the history and experience of playing a disembodied hand. So I think it's pretty cool that they got the same guy. They got that guy in to play that role, because it's like, who else are you going to get? You're going to get the guy who played the hand.
Although, a lot of people would be worried about typecasting. But yeah, I think there's a lot to love about the film. One of the things I do really like is the way that it blends the genres. It's not done in a From Dusk Till Dawn style of here's half the film that's an action movie, here's half the film that's a horror movie. The whole thing is intertwined all the way through it. And it is the thing that the comedy is, genuinely laugh out loud comedy. The horror is gory of what you'd expect in an R-rated or 18-rated film. The romance is probably the most underplayed, but it doesn't feel forced, it doesn't feel unearned.
They did a very, very, very good job of incorporating multiple genres into one movie. Without making it seem like it was copying any of the other movies that had been released recently, without making it seem like it was playing off any of those. It's its own independent film that covered these genres and did a really good job of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like we said, the closest comparison is probably, Evil Dead 2, where, it's like they watched that and went, what if we just took this one element of it and took it out, which obviously is very close to a horror movie from the early 80s, which I think was called The Hand, about a bloke who gets his hand severed in a farming accident and the hand becomes a serial killer, which I believe was one of the first films written by Oliver Stone. But
there you go.
So, that's sort of the sort of nexus of the idea. You can see those things sort of, in the background. But it's definitely a very sort of fits into that late 90s, early 2000s sort of aesthetic. And you can see why they thought it was going to be a huge marketing success. I mean, I would like to see the original version of the film, because I think it was Seth Green who said in an interview that it didn't test incredibly well. And so they sort of retooled the ending because people wanted, more comedy. People wanted Jessica Alba to be showing more skin, which is, I mean, who doesn't? But at the same point, that's not something you say out loud. That's something you keep to yourself. You don't write it on a comment card. Certainly with this film, it's that's not what killed its box office. There was like a number of things that came in that affected it.
Yeah. Well, but before we get to the side of things about what happened when it was released and stuff, I do want to just kind of jump out there. We've got directed by Rodman Flender. I'll just throw that out there. He was mostly a TV director before this. And it's kind of like the big hit of his career was this big production movie of his career was this one, as being what he's known for. He's mostly TV since as well. He's involved with The Office, as a director for a couple episodes, things like that. But this was the big movie that he was involved in. And then just to say, the writers of this one, we got Terry Hughes Burton and Rod Milbauer. So they obviously very much into the 90s genre, but neither of them really did much in the industry since this one, from what I can tell. Idle Hands being probably the most popular one. Although Terry Hughes Burton was involved in Eureka, which was a really fun show when that was out. So that's something to be interesting about.
Was that the one with Edge in it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Didn't review particularly well. I mean, I thought one of the reviews that was actually quite complimentary to it was our old friend Roger Ebert, and he gave the film sort of 2.5 stars out of 5, but said that whilst it sort of samples from a lot of teen movies, genres, and so on, it sort of has high spirits and a sort of a comic energy, and even when it doesn't quite work, it goes down swinging with a disembodied hand.
I think this is a good middle ground for people who like horror flicks and people who don't necessarily like horror flicks as much, or don't like. I wouldn't say don't like them at all, because they still have some aspects of horror flicks in them. But if you're not a huge, I'm not a huge horror fan. I enjoy some of the older stuff, sort of the psychological stuff. Some of I'm not big on the jump scare, how interesting it is to kill this person stuff. That like Saw 2 onwards, or The Purge, or whatever. Saw 1 was good, but this movie is like my middle ground. It has elements of horror, but it has the comedy and the other stuff, and Seth Green and Devon and Elton Henson and Jessica Alba and all this other stuff going on in it that I can enjoy. And not be like, well, it's just another horror flick. It's nice and right there in the middle. It's got a little bit of everything going for it.
Come on, there's plenty of chicks here. Careful, it's on kind of loose.
Cool.
So as we kind of alluded to earlier, there's a number of factors that led to this one not doing fantastically well at the cinema. It's a budget of $25 million with a box office gross of $4.2. Now you think, well, why was that? was a horror movie, even though it's a teen horror comedy, action, whatever like that. It's a teen horror movie that came out in April of 1999, which you think horror movies should come out October, should come out November, should come out September, like closer to the season of Halloween, because that's obviously when you're going to get the most people wanting to go see horror movies. One of basically the main factor as to why it got moved to April is obviously quite a sad one, which is the Columbine shootings happened. And it's obviously being a violent thing. It's a violent school-related movie with a horror factor and all that kind of stuff. It got pushed because of that. It also got, I believe you mentioned before that John McCain said it during one of his speeches.
Not McCain.
No, it wasn't McCain. It was
Senator Joe Lieberman.
Right, mentioned it by name as a movie that was
and
causing violence.
In the worst possible way, because he said it was along the lines of it was another grossly violent sort of film that was advertised to teens, but that used the killing of other people as a sort of form of comic relief. It was something along those lines, which obviously
it's not.
Just after a huge sort of national tragedy. I mean, technically an international tragedy, because the Columbine thing was, covered on the news all around the world. That's the worst possible way to associate what is essentially a throwaway comedy movie to a real life horrible tragedy.
Yeah. So obviously it got moved. It got moved to April. Not that the best month to be releasing a horror movie in, but they went with it. And looking at the box office releases around then, I'm just going to throw out the biggest problem right there, which was March's release of The Matrix, which was still dominating the box office a month later.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Because it was a sandwich. Because you had, you go a month before and a month after, and the month before you had The Matrix, which was like one of the biggest films of the year. Month after, you had Phantom Menace, the other
Star Wars
biggest film of the year.
Yeah.
And then sandwiched in that April in between, you had a list of actually, quite
fantastic
decent movies.
Yeah.
From classics like Election for your sort of, indie darling, Pushing Tin, which was very big. But then you had stuff like Go, Never Been Kissed. You had
10 Things I Hate About You. Analyze This, Life. Yeah. The Mummy was released also a month later, right?
Yeah. You had Entrapment was another, heavily pushed film.
You disappoint me.
You can't scare me with this Gestapo crap. I know my rights. I want my phone call.
So you had this, let's throw it into a sort of an already full pot between two gigantic movies.
With the negative press that's already there.
Yeah. And
it makes $4.2 million at the theater. I put my money contributed to that $4.2 million. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah,
because I went to go see it in the theaters.
You look at the circumstances surrounding it, and you're going, the fact it made $4.2 million is actually quite impressive.
Yeah.
And you go, I mean, it was something along those lines. I should make better notes.